We are live. I am here. Good to see you guys. I know. I'm always, no, a wizard is never late. A wizard comes precisely at the right time. Forget what the line was. Good to see you guys. Let me close this thing off on YouTube here. All right. Come on in, one and all. Great to have you here. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your humble host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you've already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button if you have not already done so. We've got so much to talk about today. Super chats are up, so send me your questions. Our moderator, Josh, is here to compile them, and I'll answer them at the end of the live stream. Well. My, oh my, what is it? What goes around comes around, does it not? Did you hear all of that wailing, that weeping, that gnashing of teeth from the whole of the legacy media last night? And it continues on to today. It sounded like World War Z. Now they're howling, they're shrieking. They work themselves up into an utter frenzy like Baal worshipers. Oh, you know that biblical reference. You know what I'm talking about there. They flipped out over what Elon Musk dared to do to their fellow sacred, sacrimonious journalists. Now, if you haven't heard, Elon Musk suspended the accounts of a number of so-called journalists who are, in point of fact, as we all know, woke leftist activists who disguise themselves as journalists and hide behind the shield of the First Amendment. Elon slashed a number of their accounts last night, citing their incessant doxing of himself and his family as justification. Among the victims of the woke purge, the utterly insufferable, unhinged, too crazy for MSNBC lunatic Keith Olbermann. Now, do you remember when Keith Olbermann said that Trump supporters should be removed from society? I mean, the irony, gang, the irony. His account has now been officially suspended. He's locked out of his platform for his vitriol and his hate, as they would call it. The far-left hack Aaron Rupar, as well, saw his Twitter platform suspended. He's such a shill for all things leftist. It's actually nauseating. We saw the New York Times technology reporter Ryan Mack. His Twitter's account has been suspended. CNN reporter Donnie O'Sullivan, he's been suspended. Mashable writer Matt Binder, he's been suspended. And Intercept reporter Micah Lee, and a number of others. Now, the reason that Elon gave for this just mass suspension is that these accounts were guilty of mass doxing, of revealing his physical location in real time, which violates Twitter's terms of service. Now, if you don't know, I mean, just a couple of days back, you may have seen this. Elon's toddler son was the victim of a stalking. So Musk reported that reported on Twitter that a fellow who, interestingly enough, we have his photograph, and he tweeted the photograph out. He was dressed just like an Antifa thug. This guy was following Elon's family car, presumably thinking Elon was in it. And he blocked the car from being able to drive forward and then got out of his car and climbed on top of the hood of the car. Elon was not there, but his young son, his toddler son, was. And so obviously, if you're a parent, Elon is now loaded for bear after that. He posted the guy's face. He posted the guy's license plate on Twitter, seeing if anyone could identify him. Obviously, they will if they got his license plate. And then he promised to take legal action against a fellow by the name of Jack Sweeney, who operates. Hey, Mary, thank you. Mary Comstock, thank you so much. Again, gang, remember, we've got We've got the super chats up, so if you want me to answer your questions, Josh will our moderator will compile them at the end, and I'll answer them for you. This fellow named Jack Sweeney, he operated the Twitter account ElonJet, at ElonJet, and that tracks publicly available flight tracking information that he tweets out every time Elon's private jet takes off and lands. That account has obviously been suspended for basically 24/7 doxing. But obviously, Musk is going full animal on the left-wing woke media right now. You know, you don't have to be a genius here. Again, if you're a parent, you know this. You don't go after somebody's kids, okay? You don't stalk somebody's kids. You go there, you end up releasing the beast, as it were, and that's exactly what we saw last night. Elon's gone full animal on these lib accounts that he has said is doxing him, consistently dox him. And we saw a no-holds-barred, absolute woke slaughter last night. The mass suspension of lamestream media Twitter accounts who have for so long believed that they were immune to the rules that they insisted be imputed on everyone else. Now, you can see that elitist, privileged arrogance in the hysterical responses that these suspensions got. Here's just a sample of some of the shrieking here. This is from Oliver Darcy over at CNN, and he cried out on his program, "What is CNN going to do about this? Are news organizations going to stand by as the reporters are just hastily banned without explanation?" I've got to read that again. Just so that we can bathe in the thickness of this irony. I don't even think it would be possible for this irony to be any thick. This is the oatmeal of irony. Are news organizations going to stand by as the reporters are justly and hastily banned without explanation? He went on to say, CNN is saying it's going to reevaluate its relationship with Twitter based on the response it gets. And this is actually from CNN issued an official statement here. The impulsive and unjustified suspension of a number of reporters, including CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan, is concerning but not surprising. Twitter's increasing instability and volatility should be of incredible concern for everyone who uses Twitter. We have asked Twitter for an explanation, and we will reevaluate our relationship based on that response. I think it's so important to point out that Twitter really relies on news. That's kind of the lifeblood of Twitter. This is Darcy. News is the lifeblood of Twitter. And yes, Darcy, that is why you're being suspended. MSNBC's The 11th Hour. Host Stephanie Rule is terrified. She said, quote, "This seems really scary. These are reporters who covered Elon Musk, who've covered the changes on Twitter since he took over. Now he's claiming these suspensions are taking place because these reporters put him at risk." Yes, that's right. Stephanie, that's right. You know, why was Trump suspended? Stephanie? Why was Trump suspended according to you? Well, according to Twitter. Pre-Musk Twitter. He was suspended because of the risk of inciting further violence. The risk of inciting. It's not that he was inciting violence. He was a risk to do it. So, isn't it interesting when it works in two directions there, Stephanie? And then she had this guest, Alex Stamos, on, And Stamos basically said that all Musk is trying to do here is intimidate journalists. He said by demonstrating he could take them down at any moment, I think he's looking to intimidate the people who've given him negative coverage. And it goes on and on. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the hysterics. Now, I have something to say to these left-wing activists disguised as journalists over at CNN and MSNBC and the like. Something that I'm going to say on behalf of all of us. I think we will all agree with what I have to say to them. Before I do, let's pay some bills here. Let's support our fellow patriots by clicking on that link below, heading on over to my special website. And you know what it is. It's the Ready Project Food Supply. We all know we cannot wait for an emergency to happen before we respond to one, before we prepare for it, right? And no one makes preparing for an emergency more easy, more ridiculously affordable than the Ready Project Food Supply. Their food kits last up to 25 years in storage, include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Every meal is at least 2,000 calories. And if you act right now, you're going to save 25% off a full 4-week emergency food supply when you click on the link below. It'll make an amazing Christmas gift to your fellow patriots. You're going to love it. So whatever you do, don't wait. Click on that link. Start building your emergency food supply, or start giving a gift so others can start building their emergency food supply. Today, all right, so I would like to take this opportunity to remind CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, NBC, CBS, ABC. I would like to remind you, every one of you who are having this temper tantrum, that Twitter is a private company. And as a private company, I don't know if you know this, so let me explain this to you. As a private company, Twitter gets to create its own rules. It gets to create its own terms of service. It basically gets to do whatever it wants. And Twitter, as a private company, if you're not aware, it can suspend whoever it wants. And so I would recommend to all of you who don't understand how private companies work, I would recommend to all of you that you go out and start your own Twitter. If you don't like this Twitter, MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, if you don't like this Twitter, then go out and start your own. Elon Musk has every bit of right to free speech as you do, and this is his exercising of his free speech. And if you don't like it, then you can leave and start your own social media. Obviously, the hypocritical irony in the midst of all of these howls and leftist hysteria is so flipping thick you could cut it with a knife. These are the very same people who over the last several years, not only they didn't just stand by and watch conservative account after conservative account get banned on Twitter without so much as raising a whimper. No, that would have been bad enough. No. They applauded it. They applauded those. They advocated for such bans. They demanded those bans. Joy Reid was just doing it the other night. She was complaining that Musk suspending the Trust and Safety Council made up of human rights organizations, disinterested radical leftist, woke Marxist human rights organizations, so forth. I love those phrases, human rights, the virtue signaling shielding is so pathetic. They demanded that these accounts be suspended. And so at the very least, if we wanted to test the expansiveness of our generosity, at the very least, these accounts that have been suspended have relinquished any sense of benefit of the doubt we're obligated to give them. There is no benefit of the doubt. For example, Taylor Lorenz of the Washington Post, the culture beat reporter, she's got to be one of the single most useless voices out there today. She freaked out. I mean, you could literally hear her crying behind her keyboard. She was absolutely besides herself that Elon would do something like this, and yet she did it. She didn't have the slightest semblance of self-awareness. And even considering that what Musk is citing here as justification, she herself was guilty of perpetrating. If you recall, Taylor Lorenz doxed the owner of the libs of TikTok, who keep in mind, does nothing more than simply post what woke libs themselves say and do. That's all the libs of TikTok does. The libs of TikTok just simply exposes the utter absurdity and, frankly, malevolence of liberals, especially when it involves these woke teachers and young kids in classrooms. Well, their fellow woke warriors don't like that because, of course, it sheds light on them. And they don't like light. And so Taylor Lorenz doxed the anonymous owner of libs of TikTok. She exposed her identity, which she intentionally kept anonymous, she intentionally kept hidden. What's the point? I mean, she's not, again, the owner of TikTok is not doing personal commentary. The owner of TikTok is providing a service of finding libs on TikTok and putting them on Twitter for the whole world to see. That's all this owner is doing. Lorenz said, no, we're going to find out who's doing that. And Lorenz even traveled, as I understand it. I forgot. Yeah, we have pictures of it, if I recall. Lorenz traveled to confront some of the owner's relatives at their homes to ask them questions. Now, keep in mind, this is the same Taylor Lorenz who broke down in tears on MSNBC while recounting the supposed online harassment that she was experiencing from all these mean right-wing trolls. But in the midst of all those tears, it appears she has little better to do than to ignore the political crimes of the elite and the powerful and holding them accountable, and instead go after anonymous Twitter users. Unbelievable. Oron McIntyre tweeted out this. I thought this was brilliant. The progressives who are clutching their pearls over the banning of blue-check journalists cheered the banning of the sitting president and then doubled down on their support of that banning even after Twitter files revealed that the ban was fallacious. And in many ways, what Elon Musk is doing here is so wonderful because up until Elon, there was really nothing we could do about this rank hypocrisy among the legacy media. And that's because the legacy media is built into the system so many protections and legal shields. For example, our courts have made it virtually impossible to successfully sue the media for defamation. Of course, there have been some exceptions. Nick Sandman of the Covington Catholic School kids, he settled out of court with the Washington Post and CNN. They knew they were going to get smacked with that one. But even Kyle Rittenhouse, I think, has thus far been reluctant on suing them, bringing up court cases. Because, it all goes back 50 years or so to the New York Times versus Sullivan. We've talked about this on a couple of videos, if I recall. The New York Times versus Sullivan, if you want, you write that down if you just want a fixed point in history. It was a Supreme Court case that took up the issue of the media getting sued by segregationists who were upset that the media was publishing accounts of segregationists opposing civil rights legislation, civil rights movement, and so on. And at the time, the New York Times was getting hammered. You know, it was a choice between shutting up over this story or basically going out of business, getting sued into oblivion. Oblivion. You know, I mean, the way kind of like what social media is doing today that tells a lot of content creators, there are some things we're not going to allow you to talk about. And if you do, we deplatform you, right? And so the court ended up ruling in the New York Times versus Sullivan Sullivan case that libel laws that people would normally use to crack down on how they're being presented publicly, those libel laws actually threaten the very existence of a free press. In other words, the First Amendment, at least when it comes to the press, takes precedent over accusations of libel, which is so ironic because now, of course, the New York Times is accused of trying to silence certain opinions and disenfranchise them for the public square. Exactly the irony that we're pointing out. But this is what makes it so hard to prove a libel case against the legacy media. But there's something that Musk said here that I think is key to what he's doing. This is absolutely key to what he's doing. It's absolutely key to what he's doing. It's absolutely key to where we are in the moment right now, the historical moment that we're in. And he said it on a public call last night on Twitter Spaces and in a conference chat. And this is what Musk said. He said, from now on, there is not going to be any distinction in the future between journalists, or he even said, or so-called journalists, I love that, and regular people. From now on, so this is, in a sense, this is an overturning of Sullivan versus the New York Times as far as the space of Twitter. From now on, there's no longer going to be a distinction between journalists or so-called journalists and regular people. Everyone is going to be treated the same. You're not special because you're a journalist. You are just a user of Twitter and a citizen like anyone else. So there's no special treatment. You dox, you get suspended, end of story. Now, this is huge, and it's huge because, as we've talked about before, this is Musk explicitly stating that we are indeed entering, as far as he's concerned, we have already entered, and I think he's right, into an era characterized by what's often called the information age, or an age of democratized knowledge, where there is no longer a priesthood or gatekeepers of information and knowledge. Now knowledge is available to everybody. Everybody with a smartphone is a cameraman. Everybody with a social media account is a pundit. Now we verify the truthfulness of those statements, and the way we always have the truthfulness of that of those platforms and what we're seeing, the way we always have through corroboration and correspondence. It's got to correspond to reality, and we understand how those claims correspond to reality through corroboration. Others say, yes, I've seen the same thing. Yes, I heard about the same thing. Yes, so-and-so has also corroborated, and so on and so forth. And what Musk is pointing out is that in such a world of democratized information and knowledge, where gatekeepers no longer have monopoly over information and knowledge, the rules are changing. And most especially the power rules, the power distribution in that society. We often refer to it as a network society. So if you're regular to this channel, I know many of you are, and God bless you. If you're not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. And again, if you're just joining us, we do have super chats up. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll answer them at the end. Our moderator Josh is compiling them as we speak. We often refer to this new world order that's arising as, and not the Orwellian new world order, but this new social complex and structure. It's referred to as a network society. And a network society is just a new kind of social order all over the world, wherein we constantly interact with people, places, and events through networks, particularly the internet. And so the internet functions in this new network society in many ways comparable to the way electricity functioned in high industrial society. A high, the later, so getting into the beginning of 20th century and working its way out mid 20th century. Electricity eventually got interwoven into virtually everything, right? Everything is connected in some way, shape, or form to electricity. That was the industrial society. Now we are moving into the network society where the internet and online networks are interwoven into everything. Everything is connected in some way, shape, or form to these mass networks. And what we have to understand is that in the process now, as explained, of this radical democratization of information and knowledge as a result of the network society, what we have to understand is that now power relationships are changing. The power structures within that society are changing. So, for example, the traditional gatekeepers that maintained tremendous power the last century no longer wield that kind of power. So back in the day, if you wanted a job in the news media, you had to apply, you had to audition, you had to be, in effect, picked by some kind of news agency, right? You had to win over those responsible for hiring and for placement within these big media companies and their local affiliates. They were gatekeepers. And that's because they were the gatekeepers of information. So they were gatekeepers of the industry, and the industry had to do with news and information. They were the gatekeepers, literally monopolistic gatekeepers of news and information. Now what we have to understand is with the rise of the network society, if I want to get into the news business, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to go to gatekeepers anymore. The gatekeepers have been rendered superfluous. If I want a job in the media, what do I need to do? All I need is a webcam and a social media account and a microphone. I'm good to go. All I need is a Substack account, right? And I can reach the same, if not more, people than if I were an anchor or reporter for a traditional legacy media outlet. Matt Taibbi was just talking about this with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is probably the single most successful example of this. So you see, in a network society, we can bypass traditional gatekeepers comparable to the way email and text messaging bypasses the old post office, which is another way of saying that the old gatekeepers simply don't have the same social capital. They don't have the same cultural power that they used to have in a pre-network society era. And gang, I gotta tell you, his immediate excuse for doing all this fully noted, the concerns of doxing fully noted. This, I believe, is precisely what Musk is doing here. Musk, make no mistake, is showing the media, the whole of the legacy media. We're talking the entire legacy media complex. Musk is standing up, flexing his muscles, and showing who now has the real power. Think about it. This is what Twitter originally did to Trump. When they banned Trump on January 8th, 2021, they in effect said, we are more powerful than the President of the United States. It was a flexing of muscle. That, in the end, and especially when you read through those Twitter files, in the end, that is what animates the woke, is power. Because the woke are neo-Marxists, and neo-Marxism is grounded in a frame of understanding the world in relation to, that's comprised by power discrepancies. The oppressor versus the oppressed, the bourgeois versus the proletariat. Or in cultural terms, whatever's the dominant ethnic, racial, gender, religious culture, and then all of these other enclaves, these minorities. But again, this only applies to Western culture, because Marxism is fundamentally at war with Western culture. So they are obsessed with power. And Twitter demonstrated to the world. I mean, world leaders were shocked. I mean, like Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron, they were shocked by what Twitter did to Trump. But what they did is they showed that Twitter is more powerful than Trump. Well, legacy media, who championed all of this, who applauded this, beware of the world that you build. Now, Elon Musk is doing precisely this with you. He is showing to you who has the real power in a network society. Make no mistake, in my view, this has ultimately nothing to do with free speech, right? Everyone out there in the lamestream media is like, so much for free speech absolutism. Elon Musk, the free speech absolutist. Ha ha, what a hypocrite. Again, it's all just gnat straighting and camel swallowing brought to a whole new level coming from the legacy media, the cancel culture addicted legacy media, okay? Heal thyself, physicians. But to fixate on the ideational element of Musk's supposed, ideological hypocrisy, I think is to miss the entire point of what's happening here and the monumental development that's happening here. The network society is all about new modes of power. And the one who controls the platforms for the network communication is the one who wields the real power in a network society. And Musk is the first person who has stood up and shown to the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the LA Times, CNN, and MSNBC, and ABC, and CBS, that now he has the power. Their days of wielding power have come to a decisive end. They must now, at least in part, right, a substantial part in the worldwide telecommunicative network, they must now, the legacy media must now yield to Elon Musk. He will not yield to them. They must yield to him. Again, it is precisely what Twitter did to President Trump when they suspended his account, to the applause of the legacy media. Twitter made the unmistakable statement, we are now more powerful than the president. We are now more powerful than the president. There's nothing that a lame duck president can do about us. And what the legacy media that's so hoarse today from all of their vitriolic wailing and hysteria last night, what they don't seem to get, and write this down, if Twitter is powerful enough to ban a president, Twitter is powerful enough to ban you. CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times. If Twitter is powerful enough to ban the president, Twitter is now powerful enough to ban you. Welcome to the world you helped create. Welcome to the cancel culture you helped build. The progeny is turning and eating its progenitor. And the hypocritical, self-defeating irony in your hysteria could not possibly be more sweet. Over to you, gang. Let's see what you got for me here. Remember, as our moderator Josh is compiling your questions, I want to take a moment just to highlight a way you can cut through all of the ridiculous propaganda throughout the new year by joining my Insiders Club. My Insiders Club is a censorship-free video platform where I discuss topics I can't share on YouTube, and I answer all of your questions on a weekly live stream via Zoom that we get to talk with each other, so you don't want to miss that. I'm sharing the stories the mainstream media ignores to help you think clearly about big picture trends from an academic and scholarly perspective, so you can be a part of that conversation, so you can avoid getting black-pilled, so that you can see, don't get caught up in the weeds, as it were. You could see the larger trends, the big picture of what's really happening here. So if you're looking for uncensored, open conversations discussing the topics no one else, I believe, is confronting, plus bonus video content diving into reports I can't share here today, click on that link below. Join our Insiders Club today. I've got a special offer for you. If you sign up now, you're going to get a 14-day free trial just to try it out. Plus, I've got several bonus resources I'll add on just as a thank you for joining my Insiders Club today. It's a limited time offer, so don't wait. Christmas time early here at Turley Talks. Click on that link. Join me and thousands of patriots out there around the world at our Insiders Club. Click on the link or just go to insidersclub.turleytalks.com. All right, Yeshua, what do we got here? What do we got? Let's get you going here. Oh, here they are. Look at that. All these wonderful questions. Growing number of raids. All right. Yes. All right. So Mary Comstock, thank you so much for your gift. Growing number of raids occurred related to EU corruption, with bags of money found with reported resignations, the energy shortage in Europe, the war in Ukraine, continued riots. Is the EU collapse accelerating? I do believe so, Mary, and I saw that. I was going to do a video on the rampant corruption that's going on in the EU that was exposed over the last week. Yeah, I mean, the EU, again, is an old globalist, industrialized society structure. It's formed right after World War II, and we're moving into just a very different age, the network society that decentralizes and dislodges control from centralized control, i.e. Brussels, and disperses it locally. And so we're seeing a reawakening of the local everywhere, which means nationalism, tribalism, you name it. And there's really not much that the EU can do about it. Now, again, like with the legacy media, they have built power structures and power relationships to the old industrial society that still exists. They're hangovers. They still continue, just like the Soviet Union did. In many ways, the Soviet Union died in 1979. In 1979, a book was published by François Lyotard, the French sociologist, called The Postmodern Condition, where he argued that the basic fundamental premise upon which societies like our Western society, our Western globalist society, and the Soviet Union were built, namely the modernist premise that scientific rationalism is the one-size-fits-all political and economic system for all people's times and places. And so Western globalism and Soviet communism were battling to be that one dominant political and economic system for all peoples. François Lyotard said it was dead. It was dead in the hearts and minds of people. Nobody believed in that modernist foundation anymore. And therefore, it's only a matter of time before these societies that are built on that modern foundation go through some kind of radical restructuring. So in many ways, the Soviet Union was dead in 1979. And then, of course, it took another, 12 years for it to work that death out till it finally collapsed in Christmas Day, 1991. I think we're experiencing the same thing here in the United States. Well, I mean, look at the shenanigans that are going on in Maricopa County. I mean, that says it all. I mean, look at what they're having to do to stay in power, just like in the Eastern Bloc during the Soviet Union. I mean, they have to pull all kinds of shenanigans, but it's all prolonging the inevitable. They're just in the end going to have to collapse, and we're going to have a massive restructuring, and that's what the nationalist populist movements all over the world, I think, represent. So great question, Mary. Sandra Siren, thank you for all the work, and congrats on 1 million. Thank you. Well, it's because of you, Sandra Siren. Thank you so much. What are your thoughts on EU corruption possibility of EU collapse, inflation, crazy high here? Yeah, absolutely. And again, the inflation and the energy shortage, that is the EU and its devil's bargain with the demons at Davos. So the demons at Davos want to switch to a radically green, technocratic society run from the top down. That's how globalist societies work, through the process of what's called disembedding and deterritorialization. All the politics is removed from the local, removed from your control, my control, and it is all reassembled, as it were, at these highest levels of an elite managerial class that have special prerogatives and privileges that no one else has, like the legacy media, for example. Those days are over. And it's just a matter of time before it collapses. So again, we'll see. It's just how much damage they do in the meantime. Brooks Kelly, good to see you, Brooks. Dr. Steve, if I have to purchase a secure mailbox to protect my mail-in ballot from being stolen, and I pay state sales tax on that secure mailbox, then haven't I paid a poll tax? Wow, in order to guarantee my right to vote. I didn't even think about that, Brooks. Well, I mean, if Obamacare was a tax, right? I mean, yeah, I think you're making a great point there. That's really cool. Remember now, that's a long argument. I mean, technocrats don't like long arguments. They like slogans, right? Woke people like slogans. Silence is compliance. You're making they could get lost after the first premise, but I think you've got a very, very interesting point there. And if that tax has been paid, then the government has an obligation, regardless, but they most certainly have now an obligation to protect that vote. Josh Williams, Pango, when America wins this war, Elon Musk will go down as one of America's greatest heroes. I agree very much, Pango. I think I have been so impressed with his willingness to take the bullets. So this is what we're finding is there's more and more who are rising up, and that's it. That's when it's over. When more and more rising up and saying, I'm not intimidated by you guys anymore. I'm not scared. We were just watching Kevin McAllister, right? Home Alone. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not. And then he sees the old man with the snow shovel that he thinks is a serial killer, in the streets, and he screams, and runs back inside. No, I don't know why that's going through my head. But anyway, yeah, I think the moment the masses are no longer intimidated, they start standing on top of the Berlin Wall and get their pickaxes and start knocking it down. And there's nothing they can do about it because there's more of us than there is of them. That's what makes populism such an incredible threat. And then you go, thank you to you too, Dr. Turley. Keep up the good work. You're indispensable. God bless you, Pango. You're indispensable. You are indispensable. Cool Roy, Musk could buy CNN. Then they might be worth watching it. Would that not be amazing? Oh, man, that would be absolutely amazing. Yeah, I would love to see Musk buy CNN. I would love to see Peter Thiel buy Google. This is and then the network society is here. We're in the clear, and it's a new era. It'd be amazing. Adam Bowman, Musk has issues, but his running of Twitter isn't one of them. I like that. That's a nice way of putting that. His ideas about Ubi Neuralink vaccines are more concerning me. Sure. I mean, yeah, that's absolutely legit. Tom Greer. Thank you for the gift, Tom. You're a good friend. Thank you. Nick Yu, what's with the Daily Wire? Ben Shapiro was my introduction to the conservative mindset. I remember watching him in school to counteract my liberal teacher, which he would be perfect at because he's been so much on campuses, right? My liberal teacher's talking points, but now they seem to push the Trump versus DeSantis. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Daily Wire. I mean, so for me, the Trump versus DeSantis is a battle right now happening in the donor class. There's a whole wing of donors who are pushing DeSantis to reject a VP slot because a Trump DeSantis ticket is considered to be the one that would unite the party and be unstoppable. Again, we will have to, ballot harvesting. The SoCal ballot harvesting strategy has to be employed across the country because it's been successful in 2 elections in a row in California. It originated in Southern California, but they're using it all over California, and most of the seats that we flipped came from California. So we've got to use that to counteract the Democrats. But I think it's the donor class trying to push DeSantis to step up, say, hey, this is your opportunity. Let's go all the way. DeSantis' people certainly pushing that. I don't know if Shapiro's part of the donor class. National Review, the boys at National Review are like completely funded by the donor class, not literally, but they're an old school Washingtonian think tank like conservative media that push neocon Republican talking points. I haven't seen Victor Davis Hanson publish on NRO in ages, for example, because he just wants nothing to do. And then, the people like David French and Jonah Goldberg all went like full leftoid. They went nuts, went woke at some point. So anyway, I think it's being pushed by this feud is being pushed by the donor class, and certainly by the lamestream media and the donor class's Republican media. And I don't know where Ben Shapiro fits into all of that. I just don't. But I do. I mean, from what I listened to Ben Shapiro, I mean, he is sort of your standard sort of Thomas Sowell conservative. No problem with that. Love Thomas Sowell. But he is your standard Thomas Sowell conservative, very ideological. And sometimes ideology does bump up against reality. That came out wrong, but I think you know what I mean. It bumps up against what's happening. And part of our analysis here, and thank you so much for being a part of it, I think part, NICU, of our analysis is to help you understand the descriptive in relation to the prescriptive. So we obviously have our values. We obviously all know the world and how we want it to be. That's our prescriptive element to us. Our ideological, or really more for most of us, religious sentiments, classical religion, the cult of culture, the faith, family, and freedom that alone provides for a sustainable society. But we have to understand the world descriptively as well. What's really happening in the world? What's going on? What are the dynamics? And what I think makes the world we're living in right now so exciting as well as so frustrating is that we are in a clash between the old, bloated, tired, exhausted forces of secular globalism on the one hand that are more and more turning into woke neo-Marxism versus this massive relocalized, re-territorialized, growing, vibrant nationalist populism that's pushing back against it. And that's the battle. And there are times we are absolutely going to crush it, like 2016, Brexit, Trump, you name it. Giorgia Meloni just triumphed in Italy. There are just times where we're going to absolutely crush it. And there are times the empire is going to strike back. And it's understanding those dynamics going back and forth in relation to recognizing that we ultimately prevail because the foundation of the old globalist world, which is modernity, the philosophical, ideological assumption that one size fits all political and economic system is the answer to the world's problems. That fundamental assumption has died in the hearts and minds of virtually the whole of the world's populations, except for the elite who occupy the positions of control in this dominant globalist structure. And we know that if the roots have rotted out, then eventually the fruits, which is globalism, the fruits of that ideology will rot out as well. And that's what's happening today. And we're seeing it in Europe, and we're seeing it all over. All right. Thank you for that, Nick. Ooh, my questions moved here. Don't want to miss any, Nicky. Okay, boomer to the sooner. The left said private company for years concerning Twitter. They shall be held to their own standard. I mean, again, that's what I said. Enjoy the world you helped create, Legacy Media. Enjoy the world you helped create. It was fun for you, I'm sure, when it only worked in one direction. But how long that's what it's so stunning to me. How long did they think that was going to last? It's just so bizarre. Mitchell Ryan, hey, Mitchell, do you think the Democrats will eliminate the filibuster? No. I mean, Feinstein's already said she's not going to go with it. Sinema said she's not going with it. And Manchin said he's not going. No, it's not. They're not going to eliminate the filibuster. They're not going to be able to get over the filibuster to eliminate the filibuster. Let's put it that way. Hugh Thomas, the means of defense against foreign danger historically have become the instruments of tyranny at home. James Madison, love it. Oh gosh, the founding fathers This is what our channel is dedicated to. The founding fathers were so forward thinking. They had the big picture in mind. They were studying the history of republics. They were looking at their time, their age, this new Enlightenment era that we're entering into, and what kind of societies could be sustainable moving into the future. And look at what they created. I mean, it's absolutely, absolutely astonishing. The name's Ellen. Been here since 2020. Love your videos. And I love you, Ellen. Thank you so much for that. Charles Turner, Dr. Steve, I started telling people that we need to focus on state, county, local politics. That's the new localism, the re-territorialization we're talking about. So good for you. Well done. While I reference your work in Red Eagle politics, we love Red Eagle. Federal elections might be tough right now. Red states will be firewalls. Well, Charles, perfect. That's exactly it. And we're seeing it. We're seeing how it's working. Now states are going after Fauci. I mean, it's brilliant. Now states are setting up their own CDCs, like what Ron DeSantis announced the other day. They're going to have their own state CDCs to counteract whatever the CDC is recommending. Say, oh no, sorry, our CDC, our own agency, nixes whatever you say if we find that it doesn't follow the science, shall we say. And then because we have a Supreme Court, God bless them, that's 6-3 majority, that's maintaining the federalist structure. They are enforcing the federalist structure in their rulings. There's very little that the dolts in D.C. can do about it for the foreseeable future, at least for the next generation. Very good, Charles. That's excellent. Joy, I have heard XRP is controlled by the government. Is that true? I don't know what XRP is. I don't know abbreviations. I am terrible. Oh, is this Ripple? Oh, is it Ripple? Is it Ripple? Well, I don't know. It's I don't know. If I don't know, I should not answer. I try to make sure I'm faithful to that. If I don't know, I should not answer. So I'm sorry. You stumped me, Joy. Hugh Thomas, if tyranny and oppression come to this land, it will be in the guise of fighting a foreign enemy. Oh, that's neat. Sorry, I thought it was another James Madison quote. I'll read that again for Hugh. If tyranny and oppression come to this land, it will be in the guise of fighting a foreign enemy. That's pretty cool. Zach, Laura Loomer is thrashing DeSantis, calling him a rhino and showing the receipts, pushing vaccines, but DeSantis change unlike Trump. Your thoughts? Well, again, I think Laura's falling victim to this donor class civil war, this circular firing squad. It's inevitable. It's what's going to happen. In fairness, yeah, I mean, DeSantis was your run-of-the-mill neocon when he was in Congress, as I understand it. You know, I don't think there was any foreign aid package he voted against. He may have, I don't know. But he was your pretty standard run-of-the-mill neocon. When he became governor and then became an executive, he changed. And he adopted the culture wars. We don't know what he's going to do. He adopted the culture wars in terms of fighting the woke left, which is a winning formula. Always fight the woke left because it splits the left and unites the right and brings independence over, because everyone agrees the woke left is nuts. So yeah, he became governor, switched his position. Well, not switched, but took on a new emphasis. And if he is going to fight against the woke left, more power to him. What his view on foreign policy will be, will he continue this insanity in Ukraine? I don't know. We'll have to see. But again, I think it's all silly and stupid because he's not running. He's not running. He may, but until that happens, if he does run, it's going to be a brutal primary, gang. I mean, there's no way around it. The Don doesn't go down easy. It's going to be a brutal primary. The Don doesn't go down, as far as he's concerned. So we'll have to see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, in the end, whatever happens, we have a united ticket and we move forward. But again, even if not, I love Charles who said, we focus on the local. We focus on counties. We focus on state. We set up red firewalls. We grow. And the parallel economy. That's exactly what Elon Musk is doing. And finally, Andrew, love your work and daily shows, Dr. Steve. Big love from Oxford, UK. God bless you, Andrew, from across the pond. I was actually just reading up on some scotch, different scotches last night and the process by which scotch was made. And I missed my John Smith's, We can't get, to my knowledge, or at least where I am in the States, we cannot get John Smith's here. And I loved getting a nice pint of John Smith's over at Durham. So enjoy Oxford. I actually have a lot of family out there. So, all right, guys, God bless. Have a wonderful weekend. Again, like always, I'll check in with you if anything comes up. I'll do a quick live stream or something akin to that. Ooh, Anthony just came in the nick of time. Anthony, we need DeSantis and the anti-Marxist Cubans in Florida for 2024. DeSantis is not establishment. He's going after CDC and Fauci. Absolutely, Anthony. I mean, in the end, look. I mean, the Miami Cubans are going MAGA no matter what. Okay, so I'm with you. And clearly, the Florida model, and there is a whole model. We can talk about that. I actually did a talk out in Franklin, Tennessee, on the Florida model for victory. I did 3 models: the Florida model, the New York model, and the SoCal model. SoCal is the ballot harvesting, so that's key. I've been focusing on that on the channel. And then the New York model is how to win in blue states, and that's what Lee Zeldin did. Lee Zeldin crushed it in New York. Granted, he didn't win, but the coattails. All 4 representatives from Long Island right now are all Republicans. I mean, it was brilliant. It was a red wave in New York. So it made 2022 so bizarre. And then there's the Florida model. And then DeSantis has a recipe for winning that if it can translate at a national level, actually, if you can combine all 3, will be unstoppable. So at this point, I wouldn't worry about it. I think we're okay, and we'll see how it fleshes out. But in the end, DeSantis is wonderful, and Trump is wonderful. Did a really dumb thing, in my opinion, with that whole Trump card. What are those? I don't even know what they're called. Some blockchain thing rollout, which that was just dumb. But outside of all that, we're going to be okay. So don't worry, guys. We'll just we'll stay on top of it, no matter what. We got the parallel economy. They can't do anything to us. God bless, guys. I'll see you at some point over the weekend, and I hope you're getting ready for the Christmas season. We got a little decorations back there, so I'm starting to feel it. Remember, you can give the Insiders Club as a gift to someone. That'd be lovely, and we'll get to chat every Monday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So you could do that. Make sure to click on our link, and visit the Ready Project Food Supply, our sponsor. Show them some love. God bless, guys. Love you.